Hi friends, happy Q week. Today I want to share with you a story for the letter Q called The Quiet Quail. And this bird here is the quail, and you can tell a quail because they have this funny little feather that kind of sticks up on the top of their head like that. The author of this book is Heather Fieldman, and it's illustrated by Rusty Fletcher. So the author is the person who does the writing of the words, and then the illustrator is the one who does the pictures. Now on the back of this book, it kind of gives you a little bit of a clue about what this story is about. Sometimes on the back of a story or a book you can find a summary about that gives you an idea of what the story is about. And in this summary it says, Quincy Quail can't stand Dottie Duck's loud quacking. Then one day Quincy learns that having a noisy friend can be quite wonderful. So in this story that I'm about to read you, you're going to see Quincy Quail. She's the main character, but there's another character called Dottie Duck who's her friend, and her friend is loud. But there's some other characters too that do something to save the day. So this is the story of the quiet quail. The quiet quail. And here's Quincy. You see her? She's enjoying a rainy day with her book in the house by herself. Quincy Quail is a quiet quail. He likes to do quiet things. Quincy likes to snuggle with his favorite quilt and listen to the quiet pitter-pat of the rain. So he is enjoying his time inside on this rainy day. Quincy likes to sit quietly and read all day. That's Quincy's favorite thing, just to sit quietly and read. And Quincy likes to take quiet walks, too. Sometimes on his quiet walks, Quincy meets his friend Dottie Duck. Here's Dottie Duck. Dottie is not very quiet. In fact, Dottie is quite loud. And you can see Dottie Duck quacking very loud right here in this story. Quack, quack, quack. Hi, Quincy, quack, quack, shouts Dottie. Can you see the way the author made the words all uppercase like that? It's showing that this character is being very loud. Hello, Dottie, whispers Quincy, the quiet quail. Quincy and Dottie sit at the park. Here they are sitting at the park. Quack, 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 shouts Dottie. What a beautiful day! Quack, quack! Being so loud. See how the illustrator draws the lines coming out of her mouth to show how loud she's quacking? She's quacking so loud that Quincy has to cover up his ears because it hurts his ears. Dottie quacks and quacks until Quincy's head hurts. Dottie, please, quit quacking, says Quincy. But Dottie is quacking so loudly she does not hear the quiet quail. So Quincy is saying, Dottie, shh, be quiet, you're so loud. And Dottie is quacking so loud she can't even hear Quincy saying to be quiet. So Quincy makes a decision to take a break from her friend, and she's going to go for a swim in the pond. Quincy decides to go for a swim to drown out Dottie's quacking. He spreads his quilt right here on the grass and jumps in the pond. Well, something happens to the quilt while Quincy is in the pond. Can you see who comes along and takes the quilt? This is Queenie, the dog. Suddenly, Queenie the dog trots by. She grabs Quincy's quilt and runs away. "My quilt!" cries Quincy. "Someone stop Queenie!" But Quincy's voice is too quiet. So Quincy is saying, "Stop, stop, my quilt," but so quietly no one can hear her calling for help. No one hears him. So guess who's going to save the day? Yep. Do you see the quacking of Dottie, the duck? Queenie runs right past Dottie. "That's Quincy's quilt," quacks Dottie. "Catch Queenie, quick!" The other animals hear Dottie's loud quacking and they start to chase Queenie too. So they are all running after Queenie to get the quilt back for Quincy. Here they are, pulling and pulling. Queenie is quick, but the other animals are quicker. So Queenie the dog was fast, but these other animals were quicker or faster. They were able to catch up to Queenie. And they snatch Quincy's quilt from Queenie's teeth. So to snatch means to grab and pull, grabbing it and pulling it. They give the quilt back to Quincy. Oh, I bet Quincy's going to be so thankful to have her quilt back. Quincy thanks all the animals for rescuing her quilt. So look how pleased she is. Your loud quacking saved the day, Dottie, Quincy tells Dottie. And for once the quiet quail is happy to have such a noisy friend. So if it wasn't for Dottie's loud quacking, the other friends wouldn't have heard about the quilt being taken, and so they wouldn't have been helping either. So Dottie kind of saved the day, right? So here on this Q page, let's look and see, what do you see for the letter Q? Do you see the quail and the quilt that they're sitting on? Ducks say quack. This long feather that Dottie is holding is a feather that in the old days before we had pens and pencils, people would use these feathers to write with. I think we talked about that once before. But they would take the feather and they'd dip it in the ink and then they would be able to write with it. It's called a quill, a quill. What else do you see? How about the bunny? The bunny is dressed up like a queen with her crown on. Do you see that? And she's here at the ice cream booth and she's going to buy a scoop of ice cream for 25 cents. And so she's handing over the coin that's worth 25 cents called a quarter. So a quarter also starts with the letter Q. Okay. And it says here on the poem on the back, the Q cheer. Q is for quail and a quilt for your bed. Q is for queen with a crown on her head. Q is for quack and a quarter to spend. Q is for a quarrel that you have with a friend. Hooray for Q, big and small, the quaintest, quirkiest letter of all. So in this poem, I'm sure that you know about a quail, because that was the main character of the story, and a quilt, because that's what was snatched. I'm sure you know about a queen, and ducks say quack, and I'm sure you've seen a quarter before. But my question to you is, do you know what quarrel is? A quarrel. A quarrel is when you get into an argument with your friend, but you don't use your hands. There's no pushing, shoving, or hitting. It's just using your words to argue and say things back and forth to each other that are not very nice. That's a quarrel. So sometimes in my house, when the dishes need to be done or there's chores, who's going to take out the trash. My boys will quarrel with one another. They'll say, I did it the last time. And the other one will say, no, you didn't. I did. It's your turn. And he'll say, no, I did it. I'm not going to do it. It's your turn. And they'll start arguing back and forth. That's called quarreling. And that happens in my house sometimes when it's time to do some chores at my house. My boys start to quarrel about whose job it's going to be and who did it last. And so the quarreling kind of gets on my nerves, but they do it, and then someone ends up doing the chores anyway. So it's all fine, and they're not hitting, but they're just arguing and saying things to each other that are not very nice. That's quarreling. All right. So the other thing I wanted to show you about on these cue words is after every cue word, you'll see the cue U. U is Q's best friend. So after every Q, there's always a U. So QU for quail, QU for quilt, QU for queen, QU for quack, QU for quarter, and QU for quarrel. Okay, so every time you have a Q, Q always brings its best friend U. So the second letter after Q in a word is always U. And you can look it up in the dictionary too if you want to see some other Q words. There's only one that I know about that doesn't have a U, and it's because it's the name of a tool that we use to clean our ears with. It's called a Q-tip, and that one doesn't have a U behind it, but it's because it's the name of a tool that we would use to clean our ears with. All right, friends. So I hope that today for the Q book, you got some good Q ideas that maybe you want to use in your journal. For the words journal page on Q, but I'd like you to pick a Q word that you want to send to me that I can put on our poster. Okay? I hope you guys have a great day working on your Q work.